for tuning in today. This is the Debt Free Discovery. My name is Michael Sokolic Jr., and today I am seated next to the lovely Peggy News. So, Peggy, say hello.
Hello.
All right. This is Peggy. Her and I have met at a local church that we both attend. And through that, I'm also a construction worker or carpenter or remodeler, whatever you want to call me. And that's my day job. And we actually done some work on Peggy's home as well. And she still likes me, which means that I think we're trustworthy.
Absolutely.
Thank you. So through that, that's how we know each other. Her daughter also works, one of her daughters works with children at the church. So we know her a little bit more through that because she's been involved there with the children as well. Well, today I wanted to bring Peggy on to talk to you folks out there about being a free spirit when it comes to your money. Peggy and her husband both have this thing in their marriage where they both like to spend money.
We do.
I'm not telling a lie, right?
Nope. That's
Okay.
the truth.
So that's the truth. They also both struggle with using credit cards. Is that right? Am I on topic there?
Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And the other thing is that they're also debt free, and then they're not debt free. Am I right?
Yeah, it's on again, off again.
Okay. It sounds like a teenage romance, on again, off again kind of thing.
Right.
Now, you guys have known each other since you were teenagers, right?
We have. We met when I was 17 in college, the first week in college, and got married 3 years later and have been married almost 49 years.
Wow. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And tell us, how many children do you and Rick have?
We have 4 children, 2 of which reside in heaven and 2 of which reside here in the Myrtle Beach area. We have 5 grandchildren. Actually, no, I take that back. We have 8 grandchildren.
Oh, 8.
8. And we have 1 great granddaughter whose name is Beckley Hope. And she is perfect.
Oh man, I bet she is. I bet she is. Actually, her and I have met twice now, I think, Beckley and I. And the first time she was sleeping,
Yeah.
and I walked out of this door and her eyes were open and she smiled at me.
Yes.
And I was like, wow, look at that smile. I was like, she likes me. Like, this is really cool.
I'm her people.
That's right. That's right. I'm her people. I was like, this is so neat, man. So she really is a precious child. And tell us a little bit about your grandchildren. How old are they, and what are they doing with their lives?
They range from freshmen in high school to almost 30s, and they are all love the Lord. And they are bringing up Beckley and each other in knowing him, which I think is just phenomenal and wonderful. They have jobs. Carson doesn't have a job yet, but he will soon, I'm sure. And our oldest granddaughter actually went through the Dave Ramsey course right after she was married. And she and Dylan began putting those principles together and in use so that they've been able to purchase a house. They've now had their first child and are living as debt free, I think, as you can at that age. They have a mortgage, they may have a car payment or something, but they have responsible attitudes towards money, which I wish maybe that I'd had more of when I was that age.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. So I want to talk about that. I want to go ahead and because we're talking about marriage, with your grandchildren, let's go ahead and jump into your marriage. Okay. So we're going to start with you and Rick. What is it like being married to another free spirit, somebody else who likes to spend money on whatever they desire?
Yeah.
What is it like?
It's a lot of fun. It is. It's great fun. It's always interesting to see what we want. It's also terrifying because the bills will come due.
Yeah.
And then it's sort of like, oh, okay, I can pay the minimum. And then, you get it back down under a limit and you think you have money again. And so it's like, woohoo, let's go.
Yeah.
And understanding that we have always I think with very few exceptions in our marriage, we have always consistently tithed our money to the church or to missions, and we've always given God credit for blessing us.
Yeah.
We have not always been wise, I think. And we hate to wait. I mean, why wait? Let's get it now.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Gotcha. So, all right. So in that, you guys, so I took some notes on you.
Mhm.
Um, I want to talk about your habits in this marriage.
Mhm.
Have you ever, or has he ever broken any of those bad habits?
Well, he would say no because he doesn't consider them bad habits.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, I would say that yes, we have both broken trust with each other in what we have purchased.
Gotcha.
I have been known to go shopping and lie about what something cost
Yeah.
because I didn't want him to know how much I spent. Um, I have been known to truly say, "Oh, that I've had that forever," when
Mm-hmm.
it's less than 30 days old.
Yeah.
He has also in turn been known to wine and dine us and buy the children things and let the mortgage slip a month or two
Gotcha.
because there wasn't any money at the end of the month.
Yeah.
Um, so yes, between us actually the time that we worked best together was when he was driving a truck and he had his own money and I had my own money.
Gotcha.
And so in separating it, I had control over a lump of money. And I think that's really kind of what it's boiled down to is trust and control. When we share a checking account, what'd you spend that? Why? How much did you spend on that? Or why did you go do that? Or, and it's a question we ask ourselves both ways.
Yeah.
You know,
Absolutely.
or he will say, "I want you to be able to go and spend anything you want on anything you want." Well, that's wonderful, man. I have friends that say, "I wish my husband would say that to me," and I'm like, "Yeah, well, there's some issues with that sometimes,
Right. Right.
because the bill comes due, and then
Absolutely.
what do you do?"
It
You know,
does. It really does
so.
come due. And I feel you on that. My wife and I, we do the same thing. We have a joint bank account.
Mhm.
And well, all of our accounts are joint, but there's one that's an operating account.
Mhm.
It's the only one with a checkbook. It's the only one with a debit card. And she'll do that. Why did you swipe the debit card for that?
Yeah.
And it turns into this fight. I took out cash. It's in the safe. Why did you not go down there and use it?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
because I was already out.
Yeah.
You need to plan better. So like we get into a scuffle, and
Sure.
and,
Yeah.
and I start feeling bad because I'm like, oh man, I'm bashing my wife and stuff, and then she gets feeling bad. He's bashing me.
It does,
So,
and it's probably of all the things that they say in a marriage that will cause havoc, money for us has been a huge thing.
yeah.
Because we both, Rick, I want control. Rick doesn't
Mm,
want control, but he wants to be uncontrolled, is how
gotcha.
I see it.
Yeah.
And he sees it as I want to nickel and dime him. I want to, I want too much control. And so trying to find that balance. And then, God will throw in these odd questions now and then about, well, how much do you trust me? And I'm
Yeah.
like, well, God, I trust you. Well, then why don't you trust your husband? Oh, well, or why doesn't he trust me? And
Hmm.
and so then I have to ask myself, am I being trustworthy?
Yeah.
Am I
Absolutely.
being a good steward, or am I spending money wisely, or am I just kind of closing my eyes? And in the last 2 years in particular, I just have resolved before God that I will not fight about money.
Yep.
I simply will not do it.
Good.
It takes too much energy. It's pointless. In the end, it doesn't really do any good. Um, and maybe we should have resolved more of this back in the day, but there were
Sure.
other things that had to be resolved.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
at
Absolutely.
70 years old, 68 and 70, we're still pretty much free spirits. If we see it and want it, we get it, and
Yeah.
have to figure out sometimes how to pay for it later.
That's right.
You
That's
know?
right. So,
So,
so in your relationship, you guys have had these bad habits.
mhm,
You've broken some.
mhm,
You've gotten back into them again. You still cater to yourselves, and you guys
right.
are still Some things are separated, some things are kind of put together.
Mhm.
And then you're talking about your relationship with God.
Right.
So now you've kind of stepped up this conversation to the next level. All right.
Okay.
So that's your relationship with your husband.
Mhm.
Now you're in relationship with God,
Right.
and God says, "Do you trust me?"
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah.
do. As long as I see what you're doing,
Right. Yeah.
or
Yeah. Yeah.
well, that's me anyway. As long as I see what you're doing, I trust you, God. I don't like the behind the scene thing, but He's good
No,
at
really.
that.
He's very
And
good.
now, what about trusting your husband in your marriage through trusting God? Are you trusting Him as the leader of the household?
Yeah. And I think that that's something that has really even more strongly developed since he's retired from
Mm,
full-time work.
gotcha.
Because I have seen him step up to working part-time because he wants to be able to provide for us.
Hmm.
He took his Social Security a year earlier or a couple years earlier because we needed that income. So yes, I have seen him really step up to be head of the household and to really
Yeah.
provide,
Awesome.
and to be the person that constantly reminds me God has us,
Yeah.
and we can't outgive God. Rick is probably one of the most generous people I know. If there is somebody in
Mm,
need and I will say, hey, do you think we could help so and so? He's like, well, how much were you thinking? And I'll say it. And he says, I don't think that's enough. You need to do more,
yeah.
you know.
Wow.
Or he'll come and say, there's a need that I've seen, what can we give?
Hmm.
And we and part of being credit card free of that credit card debt is the ability then to give
Yes.
wholeheartedly, and that is
Yes.
such a good feeling. And so I hate owing credit card debt because that's for stuff in the past. I want to
Right.
be able to help for stuff in the present or in the future,
Yes,
you know
absolutely. That is fantastic. So, real quick to our viewers out there, if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook Live, feel free to drop a comment below so we can maybe answer your questions while you're tuned in. If you're watching the replay of this, again, throw out your questions so that we can either make another video or we can respond to you, right there on Facebook or YouTube. If you're listening on Apple Podcast or Spotify, make sure that you drop your comments via email at msjrcoaching@gmail.com. We'll be happy to reach out to you. So, with that being said, you got on the topic of giving. So, we've talked
Mhm,
about your relationship in your marriage,
mhm,
your relationship with God, and
mhm,
trusting.
mhm,
Um, then you're telling me that when you guys are free of credit card debt,
mhm.
you're able to give more.
Right.
And one of you says, well, that's not enough. The other says, we need to give more. And you guys, I'm not hearing that you guys are fighting about that.
Yeah, that is one thing that we never have fought about. In
Gotcha.
fact, we and we have learned to make choices that enable us to give more. And
Yes.
one of those choices is to be debt free. The push pull there is something good comes along. I was telling Michael that several months ago we really wanted to put our assets into a trust in order that our children didn't have to worry about probate and different things. Well, there's a cost involved. $4,000 involved in doing that. Well, at the time, our savings account had been depleted because of some family vacation times. And so we were like, oh, that's okay. We have a completely empty credit card. We'll just put it on the credit card and then we'll pay it off in 4 months.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that sounded really good, except that Christmas then hit.
Uh-huh.
And then we had some major car repairs and that hit. And before we knew it, yeah, I mean, we were far more than $4,000 in debt. And it was like,
Wow.
well, crap. But some of our giving is just automatic. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's and those the people and the places that we give to, we can't just say, oh, sorry guys, we had a rough month here, so I guess you won't get your tithe. So it becomes choices of what are we going to do, and so we
Yeah.
had to kind of look outside the box to figure out a way to cover all of that.
Absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely. So, all right. So you understand that credit cards, like obtaining credit card debt, or really any debt for that matter, hinders your giving,
yes,
right?
it does.
Now, have you realized? All right, this is going to be a trick question.
Uh-oh.
Okay. And I
Okay.
want to see what the viewers have to say too.
Okay.
Um, is debt a sin? If debt's no good,
Right.
and God's got nothing good to say about it. Is it a sin?
I think that you can sin in how you spend your money.
Ah,
Okay.
okay. Tell me more about that.
And so if I know that um there is something that I see that I want, and it doesn't really have any purpose other than I just want it, and I decide to purchase it, that purchase could be a sin.
Okay.
Particularly if I have said to God, I really don't want to have credit card debt.
Mm-hmm.
I really know that I'm not going to be able to pay this off at the end of the month. I know that this is self-indulgence. This
Okay.
is unnecessary, or this is payback for something that Rick has purchased.
Ah,
Oh, ouch.
ah.
Then yes, so I think that sin can enter into it. I don't know that having, I mean, we owe a mortgage still because of several refinances. At this time, we don't have a car payment, but we did 6 months ago.
Mm,
We actually financed a new HVAC system,
gotcha.
and we're able to pay it off because of some other income. But I don't think that debt in and of itself is a sin. I think what gets you into debt is a little bit thinner ice,
Gotcha. Gotcha. Good.
because it goes back to, if I'm living the way God wants me to live, then I will give him control of my finances, and I will say to God, do I really need this, or
Yeah,
do I just want it?
that's right.
And not all wants are bad, and God is, oh my gosh, he has so blessed us in that he's given me wants and needs.
Yeah.
But I know there are times, the other day I was really upset about something, and I went comfort shopping.
Gotcha.
Some people eat, I have learned not to really comfort eat so much, but
Yeah.
I went into a store and I spent mm, $70
Mm-hmm. Wow.
because I was having a bad day and I needed something to cheer me up, and I could afford it. I mean, I did have the money to do that.
Sure.
Did I need that stuff? No, but that's again a habit that I could easily fall into, which is why I don't go to the mall. I don't go to stores very often.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, you
Gotcha.
know,
And that is a real thing.
it is a real thing.
I knew a
Yeah.
lady who has recently passed away, and she had the same problem.
Mhm.
She would when she was down and out, she would go out and she would spend money
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
spending money is what made her feel
Yeah.
good.
Right.
And
Right.
God rest her soul, but she was debt free when she died. 100%,
Right.
and had been for
Yeah.
years, and taught
Yeah.
many financial peace classes.
Yeah.
So I just thought that was absolutely
Yeah.
amazing for her story, that change can really happen,
It
you
can.
know?
And I think in the same way that um was going to the store a sin, we're buying those things a sin. No, but it's not necessarily a habit that I want to continue in.
Yeah,
And I need to recognize sometimes that, okay, I'm having a bad day. Maybe there's something else I can do other than just spending money. And I
absolutely.
and I have to tell you what, Amazon has not helped that habit.
Sure.
Buy now, click, buy with one click, click. Ooh,
Yeah.
that's really cool. I don't even have to go find my credit card. I don't have to go find anything. I can just hit buy, click. It's like, whoa,
Exactly.
this is exciting.
Yes,
It's very easy then
it
to,
is.
you
It
know,
makes it very
yeah.
easy, and that's where the danger starts to come in.
Yes,
So,
yes,
some
yes.
of the things that I teach, a lot of you folks who may be tuning in have heard of Dave Ramsey and the Financial Peace
Mhm.
class. I'm a big believer in what Dave Ramsey teaches, and it's not necessarily Dave Ramsey's teaching. It's stuff that he literally took from the Bible,
Mhm.
and he just put it into a perspective that
Right.
people can follow.
Yeah.
So I don't think that he's the wise guy. I think that God is the wise guy here.
Right.
It's just that he just so happened to have found a great way to get people out
Right.
of debt using that. Another guy that I like to learn from, his name is Ron Blue. And he's got some great points that he puts out on being in debt. And one of those things is an economic danger where you're compounding against yourself.
Mhm.
This is where you swipe a credit card. So State Farm, they're my insurance company. They sent me an offer to open up one of their credit cards,
Right.
and you get 3% cash back for this, for paying your premiums. So I did the math and I was like, oh, wow, $120 a year. Thanks. 2% cash back on these purchases. And I was like,
Mhm.
ooh, thanks. And then a 1% cash back on anything else.
Right.
Ooh, thanks. Interest rate, 16.99% variable
Right.
rate. Which
Right.
way you think it's going to go? up. Everything, it's going to keep going up. So I'm looking at this. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm not going to bash something that bad, but they're just out trying to make a living. That's the way they do it.
Yeah.
Whatever. But again, that's just a great example of compounding against yourself.
Right.
The next thing is a spiritual danger, is saying, if I move to this town or that town and I work for a year, I can make a profit. Well, if I take out this loan or that loan and swipe that credit card in a year, I can have it paid off and make a profit, or just have it paid off in general. Are you promised that long to live? Can you really have it paid off? Who are you leaving that debt behind to? What's going on here? So there's a spiritual danger when it comes to that. There is also relational danger that comes. So we kind of touched on that a little bit with your relationship with your husband. And I want to touch back on that yet again. Tell me, what if there's anything that has torn your marriage apart and made you guys hate each other so much? Ooh. What would it be?
It would probably be control of money. Who's going to control it? Who's going to be the bad guy?
Gotcha.
Because see, we don't think of it in terms of what's best for us. We think about it in terms of, well, you're being mean to me. You're saying, you're denying me something I want. And I think that issue of control is something that we struggle in many areas, but probably none as clearly as we do in money.
Gotcha.
Who's going to control the money?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Who's going to be the good guy? Who's going to be the bad guy? And instead of thinking what's the best that we can do for us, it becomes a power struggle.
Yeah.
And we're learning. Now, we've been married, like I said, almost 49 years. And in the last several years, we've actually learned kind of a better balance of this. But there are times I know that our marriage would have been smoother if we had learned that before.
Gotcha.
And I have to tell you that somebody bailing you out of debt is not necessarily the answer.
Yeah.
Because been there, done that. We've had every kind of bailout, from parental bailout to debt consolidation to unfortunately to people dying and using insurance money or inheritance money to get us out of debt. And after the second time that happened, I said to God, I don't want to have anybody else to have to die in order to get me out of debt.
Sure.
I mean, but it is a snowball effect for me. It's something that creeps up on me before I'm even sometimes aware of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
absolutely. And that can be detrimental.
Yeah.
It's really crazy because I tried to study what is the leading cause of divorce in America. And we know that 50% of marriages in America are going to fail because that's what the statistics are showing us. That's a lot of marriages.
Yeah.
Well, what are the reasons? Well, the top two reasons are infidelity and money fights. Sure. Well, it's like, well, which one's number one? Well, that survey said infidelity. That survey said money. And that survey said money. And that survey said infidelity. And it's back and forth. And you're like, well, which one is it? Well, it seems to me like it's probably both. Do they both go hand in hand? I think they do.
Sometimes they do. And it's really shocking. And I really do. I think that what happens is money will wear you out.
Yes.
Money makes you tired. Because you have to, it's something that you can't not do without. Very few people cannot spend money on anything. I mean, even people who live off the grid and do bartering and things, at some point there was money involved in something that they did. So in our day-to-day lives, money is something that is a continual thing, and it is exhausting.
Yeah.
And when you meet somebody new, when you meet somebody who hasn't heard your stories 100 times, who doesn't know that, you fart in your sleep, and who doesn't, who doesn't mind that you dribble on the kitchen counter, that you don't know how to pick up your wet towels, all of a sudden you're like, wow, this is it, and when you buy them flowers, they get excited, or, and so I can see where the two things go together, because you want to escape the reality of the known.
Yeah, absolutely. And Earlier, you said this, and I actually put it in quotes.
Uh-oh.
Money gets mean.
Oh, yeah.
All
Yeah.
right. How does money get mean? You're in control of it.
Right.
How does it get mean?
Money gets mean when the person who perhaps doesn't feel in control of it goes and gets another credit card.
Ah.
Okay. Because you can get a credit card now. Just about anybody can get a credit card. And in fact, my grandson, who's 23, oh my God, he had a birthday. He's 23 years old. He probably gets credit card offers 3 or 4 times a week.
Wow.
Now, his mail comes to my house, and he doesn't always get his mail if it's a credit card offer.
Yeah.
But getting a credit card is not the problem. So if I'm feeling like, I want to do something and my spouse isn't going to let me do it, I'm just go get another credit card.
Yeah.
They'll never know about it.
Right.
Right. So I can max that out. It also gets mean when it becomes a weapon.
Yeah.
And it's funny, Rick and I are really, we're so different so many times. Rick buys store brand at the grocery store.
Okay.
Now, I used to buy store brand when all the kids lived at home, because feeding 4 children and all their friends was expensive. So I would buy off brand.
Yeah.
Well, when they all moved out of the house, one of my treats is that I no longer buy store brand. I like I like Kellogg's Raisin Bran. I like the real gherkin pickles. I like the real Pop-Tarts, not the Rick.
I agree.
Rick is like, they taste the same. What's the difference? And I'm saving money. Look, I'm saving money. Aren't you proud of me? I didn't, and I'm thinking, yeah, but, and those are the kind of crazy things that can become an argument.
Yeah, absolutely.
That can become a source of stress in your life.
Yep.
And it's foolish, but gosh, it's real. At least it has been in my marriage.
Yeah.
In my relationship. It also becomes within a family, and my girls are going to kill me for this, but I will often hear from one or both of them, I'm broke.
Yeah.
Well, what does that mean? Because you're wearing a brand new shirt.
Mm-hmm.
Or we're kind of struggling right now to pay this. And I'm thinking, yeah, but you just went on a vacation.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we tend to judge people, because I've learned that being broke means a lot of different things to people.
Sure.
Broke can mean that you have no savings, no money in your checking account, and you've maxed out your credit cards.
Yeah.
You're broke. You are broke. Money can mean that you only have $1,000 in your checking account. Your savings only has $5,000, and you've got less than $300 in cash in your wallet.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand that kind of broke, but I know people who think that that's being broke.
Right.
And so what I've had to train myself to do is to never say that I'm broke. If somebody says, you want to go do something, or you want to get this, or let's go do this, I will say, I choose not to do that right now.
Yeah.
Because it is a choice.
Absolutely.
I could go open a new credit card, or I could go, in fact, it's funny. Rick and I went and we purchased something at Kohl's. Now, I've had a Kohl's credit card for years.
Yeah.
It's been inactive for probably the last 5 years. But this was if you use your credit card, then you get this much more savings. So we did that.
Right.
Yeah. And we were so excited because we saved some money. I mean, we did. Well, when it came time to pay the bill, apparently I read it wrong, and I paid the bill 24 hours later than the due date. And the amount of the interest on that, I paid it off. I paid it in full.
Yeah.
And then I got a bill for the interest because I paid it 24 hours late.
Right.
And the interest on it was more than the money I had initially saved. And Rick goes, well, sure, I'm glad we saved money on that one, aren't you? And I was so angry that I'm like, I'm closing that account. I won't go to Kohl's anymore. Because again, here was the temptation. Save some, just like you talked about State Farm. Save some money here. But in the end, it didn't save me anything.
Right.
And it made me angry.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So,
and that's one of the big things about it is the late payments. So later this week, we're actually going to be doing another, I'm going to be doing a MSJR rant. Okay.
Okay.
And I'm going to be ranting about credit cards in general and why people should just completely stay away from them.
Mhm.
One of the things, okay, here's a little teaser for y'all. One of the things in that is late payments.
Mhm.
You're not going to believe it. Last year, 2020, 12 billion with a B,
Oh,
Billion.
I am.
Is that how you spell
Yeah.
it? $12 billion in late fees
I
is
believe it.
what the credit card banks
Mhm.
earned off of hardworking Americans who don't know how to control their
Yeah.
finances. And the
Crazy.
biggest thing is even if you know how to control your finances, I am on top of it, nonstop on top of it. I am the biggest nerd when it comes to finances, probably in my whole family. Well, except for my cousin Rachel. Hey, Rachel, I love you. Um, she has an accounting degree.
Oh,
She's a
wow.
real nerd.
She's a real nerd. Yeah.
So she but even I can make late payments.
Mhm.
Like I have forgot to pay my water bill and I've had to pay an extra $4 or whatever the fee is.
Right.
And I get so angry. I'm like, no, I don't want to pay that. But all these people, $12 billion worth of late fees in 2020. People need to stay away from credit cards.
Mhm.
Those
Mhm.
80% of Americans who are in debt,
Mhm.
who are spending that much money in late fees, probably need to stay away from credit cards. But then there's people like you, Peggy, who, okay, I made one late payment. Doggone it. However, you're in a position where you're kind of in and out of debt,
Right.
but your debt, like you're not justifying your debt with materialistic items, right? Like
Right.
you're not a material girl living in a material world.
Ooh.
Are you, Madonna?
I try not to. Let me rephrase that. Maybe sometimes. I think when I use a credit card, when we use a credit card, and Rick and I are very much now where we know when we're putting it on a credit card
Mm-hmm.
because they're usually big things. It's like a new set of tires or a new um and we know that we'll be able to sometimes we use it because it's more convenient.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a timing issue that Social Security hasn't gone into the account, so that I need to put it on a credit card. I need the tires today, but it'll
Okay.
be a week before Social Security comes in, and then I can pay it off. Now the trick is always you got to remember to pay it off, because
Yeah.
if you don't, then it just, again, it snowballs. But it's one of those things where, yeah, it can get out of hand really fast.
Absolutely.
And if you don't pay it all off, then it just keeps snowballing.
Yes.
And
Yes, it
once you
does.
start using a credit card, it just becomes easier to use a credit card.
Yep.
Now, I know I have a friend who puts everything on a credit card,
Mm-hmm.
and at the end of the month she pays it all off.
Gotcha.
And I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
I would be terrified to do that because I don't have that system in place to pay it all off.
Sure.
I would have spent the money that I needed to pay off the credit card during the month rather than saving it. Now, I will say, when you talked about State Farm, I did, because we had put this trust amount on a credit card and things, I got a notice from State Farm credit card saying that I had earned X number of dollars in cash back.
Yeah.
Normally, that doesn't really impress me because you either go on some weird site where you order queer things for your kids that they then put into the white elephant, gift exchange. Yeah, that's pretty. Yeah, that happened. Just
and your
2 days
family
ago.
has some fun
Oh,
white elephant
yeah,
gift
we
exchange.
do.
I've heard
So,
the stories.
or sometimes you can get a Visa card, but then that Visa card isn't always accepted. So anyway, I was really delighted because this time, I was told that I could apply that to my bill.
Yeah.
And so they don't make it easy, though. They don't. You have to
Right.
really search for the connection to be able to do that. And then they say it could be X number of days or weeks before it shows on your bill, which amazes me because it's less than 4 nanoseconds that they put the charge on your bill. But it may be. But I was really pleased because it was one of the first times that there was a positive to getting that cash back on it, and that was really good.
Yeah.
We'll see. So I adjusted my payment to show that would be a credit.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm hoping that there's no interest charges that come in that interim, because I'm still trying to figure out how they do that.
Sure. Sure.
So
Absolutely. I hear you.
anyway, but
Yeah.
I really do, I don't think credit cards in and of themselves are bad. I
Hmm.
think that many of us, and I'm at the top of that list, have used them poorly
Sure.
and
Sure.
formed bad habits with them, habits that are a lot harder to break than you'd think.
Yeah.
You know.
Absolutely. So, like fire, for instance,
Hmm.
fire is a great thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
However,
Yes,
uncontrolled, you can start a forest fire.
that's right.
You
Yeah,
can ruin people's
yeah,
homes. You can ruin the environment.
yeah.
Water is a beautiful thing. It's a life-giving thing
Until it's up to your ceiling in your
until it's
house.
up to your ceiling in your
Yeah,
house.
right,
Exactly.
right.
So again, credit cards can be like your friend who puts everything on it
Mhm,
and pays it off at the end of the month.
mhm, mhm,
She is capable and
mhm.
able to do so,
Right.
and has that behavior. Um, it's not one that I would do, even though I've got that behavior.
Mhm.
Why would I? I'm like, yeah, I'll just use cash.
Well, but my sister
But
does that, and she flies back and forth between Nashville and San Diego free, a lot of it, because she
sure,
can put it into Sky Miles,
yeah,
which is great. She has that whole thing figured out. Again, I've never been able to figure it out, but
right,
I know people who do that specifically for the rewards, and I
yeah,
think that's great. But again, remember I said money makes you tired?
yeah,
You have to be willing to put the time into reading the fine print, discovering how to use it. They're not going to necessarily make it easy. It's like trying to get that money
yeah,
applied to my State Farm credit card bill. It was a lot harder than just clicking the button that said send me a Visa card.
yeah, absolutely. And
So
there again, it goes back to what we're going to talk about later this week on debt free discovery about
mhm.
credit cards. But how much do credit card companies spend in millions, tens of millions a year on advertising?
Oh yeah,
Because they know
right.
what that they
Yeah,
can give you those little
sure.
perks,
Yeah,
but they're still winning.
sure
You'll
they are.
never win.
Yeah.
You might be able to succeed in what your goals are,
Mhm.
but you're not going to win against them. Like,
No.
you're never going to win. They're bigger than you,
Mhm.
and just stop paying them interest and so on. But when it comes down to it, again, money can get tired.
Yeah.
It can. So if you don't have the time to
Right.
go through all that,
Yeah.
there's just no need for this stuff
Yeah.
for those kinds of
Right.
people. And then you've got the side of people who, let me see if I can word this a good way. Um, they put too much focus into this.
Mhm.
I knew a guy who he married a woman who had no debt, and he had debt, and they worked it out, got their debt paid off, but they kept using the perks, right?
Mhm.
So it got to the point though where he was like, well, I don't want to pay any interest either. So it got to the point where he would make a payment every day.
Oh wow.
It was every day because he's like, I don't want to pay the interest, but I want the perks. I want all these perks.
Okay. Yeah.
And then one day he had this thing happen. He just had this thing. And he was like, I'm getting all these perks, and the people paying for those perks are people who can't pay off their bill, who are constantly
Mhm.
paying big interest rates. He
Mhm.
started feeling bad for people. And, I was like, well, that's their own stupidity and that's their own stupid choice. He's like, but they don't know. They don't know.
Are you your
It's
brother's keeper?
what's that?
Are you your brother's keeper?
Right? Are you asking me that?
You know.
so so I'm like, right. So it's like a bunch of little children
Mhm.
who don't know like how to get to the milk
Mhm.
or whatever. So they need to be taught. And it's like, okay, I get you. And so like there's this moral thing for him.
Mhm.
And I look at it and I'm like, yeah, it's a moral thing for me too. I got pumped up about it. But I'm still in a place where I'm just like, credit cards. I just won't use them because I don't want that behavior to enter
Yeah.
my household. But again, it's not a sin.
No.
This is not a sin.
No.
We already know that much. It's just something where you got to learn to control your behavior.
Yes.
Just like people who burn wildfires for the environment. I don't really know why they do that, but I'm sure I could watch a YouTube video. But they control the environment,
Right.
around them, and they don't cause a forest fire that's out of control.
Right.
Like water. You don't leave your tub running
Right. Yeah.
without an overflow. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
it's just learning how to control your finances.
It's a discipline, and it's and we talk a lot about addictions,
Yeah.
especially today, with the opioid addictions and drug addictions and alcohol addiction things. But you don't often hear people talking about spending addictions.
Yeah.
And I know for myself, I can be an overspender.
Mhm.
I mean, it's just like going shopping the other day. It's my go-to to make me feel better kind of thing.
Yeah.
There's food addictions. There are a lot of things, but the first step, I think, for me was recognizing that credit cards only encourage that addiction.
Sure.
And so I don't carry credit cards in my wallet.
Mhm.
I leave them at home. Um, which means that if I'm going to go use them, I either have to have Rick with me because he carries.
Gotcha. He's always ready to
He's
swipe
always
them.
ready. That's it. That's it. And so, but it causes me to take a little bit of a step back and say, do I really want to use that?
Certainly.
And so I think it's like with anything. If God says to you, wouldn't you like to be debt free?
Mhm.
And you say to yourself, okay, Lord, what does that mean? And
Yeah.
in my particular life, being debt free means I don't carry credit card balances.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that I don't use credit cards, because I do.
Sure.
It means that I work very hard to be able to pay them off at the end of each month, so that before I put something on it, I can either say, well, I could put this on my checking account debit card, and then it's done.
Yeah.
So I don't really need to postpone the payment on it.
Sure.
Maybe I don't really need this, or maybe it is a timing thing
Mhm.
where I know that, I'll have income coming in at a certain time of month, but I need this before that.
Yeah.
And I think it's okay, but I'm also retired.
Yeah.
So the tricky part comes in. The other part that we haven't mentioned is that my earning ability is less
Yes.
than
Yeah.
it was when I was in my 30s. Not probably, I did. I worked 3 jobs.
Wow.
I had a full-time job, I had a part-time job, and then I had a part-time job.
Yeah.
And the whole thing was that I was going to make extra money to pay off something. Well, what usually happens, I made extra money and I spent extra money.
Yep.
Rick had 2 jobs. He worked a full-time Monday through Friday, and then he worked nights on the weekends.
Yeah. Wow.
When you're 68 and 70, it's a little harder to do that. Number one, it's harder to find a job sometimes.
Yep.
Although Rick as a truck driver is not found. I mean, he's found a job easily enough. But there's a physical toll to
Sure.
working.
That's right.
I like not working. So I don't want to be in a debt position where I have to go find a job.
Sure. Absolutely.
And I know that there are people through no fault of their own that are my age that, in order to put store brands on their table, are working.
Mhm. Yeah. Absolutely.
And one of my prayers is that my children and my grandchildren will learn financial wisdom before they're my age.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Because I don't care if they're millionaires, but I think that there is something really awesome about being able to pay your bills on time.
Yep.
To be able to treat yourself to the occasional vacation, or going out to eat, or
Yeah.
doing something fun or special. There's a freedom in being able to say yes to something. And then
Yep.
there's that huge freedom that allows you to give to people who are in need.
Yeah.
Who I know, when our grandson Max lost his leg, there was a GoFundMe account that began, and within literally 3 or 4 days, there were thousands of dollars that had been given, and I was just awed
Yeah.
by people giving
Absolutely.
to a 17-year-old who'd lost his leg.
Right.
And the long time story of that is that the likelihood is that the insurance companies will do some settlements and things, but there were immediate needs that needed to be met.
That's right.
In his family, and these funds helped with that. But if you're struggling to make minimum payments on a credit card and you're struggling to make your mortgage within the 10-day grace period, and to put gas in your car at $4 a gallon,
Mhm.
thankfully not yet. You know, you may want to give to something like that, and you may want to
Yeah.
think they're just, or I'll use a credit card to give. Well, then that's kind of one of those mixed blessings.
Yeah.
You know, if I use a credit card to give to somebody else, then that's a gift that's going to go on giving, because I'm going to have to keep on paying that.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
so it's just it's hard.
It
It's
is.
hard.
It is. And it boils down to studying that for your personal
Mhm.
self,
Yeah.
for your personal household income,
Right.
and
Yeah.
where you are and what's going on.
Yeah.
So that actually leads me to a great point. Here comes the advertisement. So I am a
Yay.
financial coach. So if you are struggling with your household finances, whether you're married or single or divorced or widowed, whatever it may be, whether you're 18 years old or if you're 68 years old, I can certainly help with that. MSJR Financial Coach. You can find me on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. Also on Apple's podcast and Spotify. I can do virtual appointments. So wherever you live in the country, thanks to technology, we can get that handled. So reach out at msjrcoaching@gmail.com or reach out there on social media. Would love to chat with you and get you a free consultation and see what we can do to get you to be somebody who is debt-free and giving generously like you never thought you could give before. So that is one of the great things about what I teach is just biblical principles. It's nothing that I created. It's just something that I've learned from God's word, and I believe it to be true. So, Peggy, thank you so much for
Thank
coming
you.
by today. I
Thanks.
really appreciate it. This has been great having you on. You're actually my first live broadcast that had
Woo!
audio. Now we
that's funny.
right. We had somebody say that the volume on YouTube was not working, and we thank you for that. I did do a test here, and my volume on YouTube was working. So if you're watching this on YouTube and reading the captions and you want to hear it, run over to Facebook and you can check it out there. And we're also going to upload this video to YouTube as well for you to check out at a later date. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Facebook and Instagram, and follow us on Apple Podcast and Spotify. Until next time, Jesus loves you. May God bless you. And I love you too. And I'm sure Peggy does too, right?
I do. Absolutely.
Yes, I knew that you would. So, Peggy, is there one last thing that you want to say to the community? One last thing that you could say to make an impact.
Find somebody to whom you are accountable for how you spend your money.
Bingo. I love it. Accountability partner. You heard it right here, ladies and gentlemen, on the Debt Free Discovery. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll catch you on the next one. Bye-bye.
Bye.